everyone. Welcome to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly, Cata Mejía. With me today is Eileen Ivette. She is the founder of Black Latin History. Hello and welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm so happy to be here with you. First of all, let's talk about the fit for a second.
Thank you.
Love the vibrancy. Love the personality. Let's talk about the shoes. I love it.
Thank you. So I always say I'm a retired fashion girl. Growing up, I love streetwear and sneaker culture and stuff like that. And so these are actually kind of like a lot of people's holy grails. These were one of mine. They're the Atmos Animal Pack, I think 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
One of a kind. This is a Black-owned, Nigerian-owned brand, Kai Collective. I don't remember where the shirt is from. And this is also Black-owned, woman-owned Gretsch World, who also happens to be my best friend.
Oh my gosh, okay, shout out to all of them.
So
you make them look even better than they already are as standalone pieces.
I try to wear a little bit of everything. I think these are Afro-Colombian-owned designers as well, and then this is random stores that I
love it.
found. Thank
I
you.
love it. Okay, so you describe yourself as a cultural storyteller and adventure seeker. So
Yes.
let's dive into that, but also who are you at your core? What was your upbringing like, and how does that all transfer over to what you're doing now?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I guess let's start with the background.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born in Houston, Texas. Both my parents are from Buenaventura, Colombia. Yeah, from El Pacifico. Yeah, El Pacifico. And growing up in Houston, I loved it, but it was also an interesting experience being Black and being Colombian. And in Texas, to be Latina, to be Hispanic meant you were Mexican. And so growing up, I heard a lot of oh, you're not Black, right? Because I'm Colombian. And I was like, what do you mean by that? But I also didn't necessarily fit into the Mexican crowd. And so I was constantly having to explain to people I'm a Black girl. I just speak Spanish because that's how my mom taught me. She was like, we're Black women first, and then we just culturally speak Spanish, have a little bit difference. And so she would always send my older sister and I to Cali and Buenaventura when we were younger every summer. And that's where I discovered that I hated cold showers. Yeah.
I was recently in Colombia y me tocaron.
Yeah.
I
hated cold showers growing up. My grandma literally used to boil my water so I could bathe. Yeah. And so, I just grew up in both of these worlds, essentially, in Houston, Texas, and Cali and Buenaventura. And that, constantly, I guess, being racially profiled, not in the way that most people would think as, a Black girl, but being racially profiled as I was constantly having to explain how I spoke Spanish or how, I knew who Mark Anthony was and Celia Cruz was, but also understood Beyonce and the cross-culturals of the two realities I lived in. And so I was always just really passionate about creating some types of platforms that amplified the stories and the voices and the things that I knew growing up, right? Every Colombian I knew growing up looks like me, had my skin tone, And so I was just why do people not understand this? And this is let's say the 2010s, the early 2000s. And so the term Afro-Latina hadn't been created yet, right? And so there wasn't this big push for the term for the community, but we knew we existed. Yeah. And so because I always had this mission to create these platforms, I was in 6th grade, my drama teacher, we were doing a yearbook 6 weeks or something, and I really liked it. And she was like, Eileen, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, oh, I think a lawyer. I love to argue, and I like proving my point, right?
To argue.
I love proving my point. And she was like, I think you should look into journalism. You're really good at doing these layouts and stuff. And that just kind of stuck with me. And that was the 6th grade, right? And so all throughout middle school and high school, I did yearbook and newspaper, and I really loved it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Maybe this is the avenue I can do to create these stories. And so I majored in journalism. I went to Howard, which is a HBCU, and that really shaped a lot of what I do now. Just because when people think of HBCUs, they just think oh, it's just a bunch of Black people, right? But Blackness is not monolithic, and like there's regional differences, there's cultural differences, there's just all of us from everywhere. And I really got to see that at Howard, and I got to meet other Afro-Latinos, and it was just really cool to like meet someone she was like Venezuelan and Haitian, right? And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting like combination that I had never heard of. And so hearing about her experiences, I had a friend who was Cuban and Dominican, and like, you know, just hearing everyone else's experiences growing up Afro-Latin. And so I eventually did my first like ever web series called Tus Parceros, paying homage to like, you know, Colombian culture, but really honoring all of our stories. And so it was kind of like a guide code, girl code type of setup where I would just throw out topics and people would share their stories. And that was my first ever web series. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew nothing about video production, but it was really important for me to just like get that story out. And then just over time, over the years have passed, and I've kind of just reworked the idea, right? At its core, I've always just wanted to amplify Afro-Latin stories, Black stories in Latin America. And so now that looks like Black Latin history. And yeah, I'm really excited about it.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So I have a couple follow-ups. The first being, you know, you mentioned that your parents would send you to Colombia every summer. I had that same experience. Were you ever faced on the flip side of being here in the U.S., of being questioned of your identity? Were you questioned in Colombia, being like, tú eres gringa, or no eres tan colombiana? Did you ever face that?
A little bit, right? Because I went through a weird phase where I refused to speak Spanish. And I think it partially happens because I was just tired of having to be, like, being told, like, oh, you're not Black, right? And now that I'm older, I understand that here in the U.S., Black is used as an ethnicity or race and a nationality, as in Black American. When we say Black in the U.S., we're talking about Black American culture, right? And so, but not knowing that when I was younger, I was like, what do you mean? Like, so I stopped speaking Spanish for like a long time. And I'm just now getting back comfortable speaking it. I lived in Medellin for about a month to take Spanish classes. Nice. But I feel like when I was in Colombia growing up, I would get that because I refused to speak Spanish, but it wasn't like too much, right? Yeah. Like, I feel like my family has always been very just like welcoming and understanding, and like, you know, we're all family. Like they were more excited to see us, the La Americanas, because there was like maybe like five of us who were born here in the U.S. And so I didn't get that much. Now with like the content I do and the comments I get, I'm constantly being told like, oh, you're gringa, like you're bringing your American ideologies to Latin America, like we don't think that way, and da-da-da-da. And so it's like a constant education of trying to teach people that like it's not U.S. ideology, like it's still like racism still exists in Latin America, and it just shows up differently. Absolutely. So a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that when you launched your first video series, you know, you didn't have a ton of experience in video production, but timeline-wise, did you release it while you were still in college? What happened after Howard?
Yes. So Tus Parceros came out my sophomore year in college. So that is... Well, I'm aging myself. That was like 2015.
So are we the same? Are you 29?
Yeah.
Me too. Okay, we're the same age. Please, girl.
I'll be 30 in October.
Oh, yay.
But yeah, so that came out like 2015. And after that, going into junior year, going into senior year, I still hadn't had like a big internship yet. And I was like, dang, I'm about to graduate and I still don't have like this internship. But I was always one of those people who really believed in like, if you don't get the opportunity, you create the opportunity yourself. Amen. And that's why I just kept creating my own stuff just in case, you know, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And so what year was that? That was going into senior year. So junior year, around like the spring semester, the School of Communications at Howard used to, I think they still have it though. They used to have this NYC media, like, internship tour type thing, and you had to be part of like specific orgs, and you would get to go to New York, and basically we would meet Howard alum at every like major media publication, like Essence, BET, Complex, all these places, and I didn't know it was happening, but one of my professors, she was actually like she wasn't the dean, but she was like two people under the dean. And she was like, Eileen, you're going on this trip. And I was like, excuse me? And she was like, you're coming on this trip. I said, you're in my organization. It's like $25. Like, you're coming. I was like, okay, like, sure. And in that like group of people, we were seeing Complex, and I was really interested in working at Complex because they were at the forefront of video journalism, and they were sneakers and hip hop, and like, it seems like a really fun opportunity. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to land an internship at Complex. Like, that is my goal of going to this. Like, there's a reason she's forcing me to come, like, and I haven't had an internship, and I'm about to enter my senior year. Like, I need to make something shake. And so we went. I had all my things ready, and we spoke to 3 people. One was Jinx, Brandon Jinx. He went to Morehouse, but he's like OG Complex news anchor. The other one was Speedy Mormon, which yes. He's really popular on TikTok now, but he started at Complex. And then the third person was Mia, and she was in charge of the internship program. And so everybody, like, at the end of them talking to us, everybody went to Jinx and Speedy. And I was like, Mia is the internship coordinator. She's who I can go to get this job. And so I beelined to her, and we're just having a conversation. And she was reading my cover letter and my resume, and she was like, so she was asking me questions basically. And she was like, I don't get any of that off of this. Like, she's like, where's your personality? Like, you're dope. Like, where is all this in your stuff? She was like, tweak it, send it back, and I got you. So by the end of that conversation, it was like basically guaranteed that I had that internship. And so that was pretty much my only internship, actually. And I learned everything that I know about video production from there: how to set up cameras, how to set up mics, how to do teleprompters, like everything, how to edit. I learned how to edit for real from that internship at Complex. And that was 2016, 27, it was 2017.
Because it was junior going into senior.
Yeah, it was going into senior year. So it was 2017. And so that's what I learned, everything from there. And then, like, there were some, basically by the end of the internship, I was told I would have a job once I graduated, but then senior year happened and that team no longer existed. Yeah. I didn't know about it. And so I'm going through my senior year thinking I have a job offer, that I'm secured, and I didn't have a job. And so I ended up interning for them again after graduating, because that was really the only option I had. And I ended up working on this show called Full Size Run, which was like a weekly sneaker news type show. Nice. Trinidad James was one of the hosts. It was really like goofy and fun and everything like that. Complex was a really big learning experience for me, but I knew that being there taught me like what I do and don't want to do with my career.
Which is what internships are for.
Yeah, and I ended up being there, like, I was an intern for 3 months, then I got hired as a PA, and I was there for about a year and a half. But yeah, I just knew, for me, the work culture, I wasn't a good fit. Like, it wasn't a good fit for me. And so I was like, okay, I have this expensive journalism degree. Like, I really want to work on documentaries. I really want to, like, interview people and talk about interesting stories. Like, I don't want to necessarily just focus on celebrity culture. And so I ended up finding another job thanks to another professor. Like... Your network is so important, and like being a person that people remember and want to follow up on and check in on you and make sure that you're doing well is so important. Because I was completely ready to quit journalism, quit video production, and just like go back home, recalibrate, maybe do Teach for America, because I said if I didn't do video production, like I would have been a teacher. My mom's a teacher. And so I understand like the importance of education, which I think you can also kind of see in the way I approach my content now. But yeah, he was just like checking in like, hey, are you good? Like, where you want to go next? Like, what's happening? And I was like, I think I want to go to AJ Plus. And he was like, oh, I just met someone from there. And I said, oh, really? He was like, let me make the introduction and then let's see what happens. He made the introduction. I did what I needed to do. 6 months passed. I still didn't have a job offer or anything like that. So I was like, let me just reach out one more time and maybe, this is my last push. And then fortunately, it just all worked out the way it needed to work out. And so I worked there and pandemic happened. I was there for 3 months and I got hired for this really interesting show called Eat This, which was like the intersection of social justice through food, like through a food lens.
Beautiful.
And it was really dope. And I was like, oh, I'm finally going to get to work on documentaries. But then pandemic happened 3 months into being into that job. And I was based in DC at the time. And there was like a round of layoffs and I thought I was going to be one of the people laid off because I was the last person hired. And somehow, by the grace of God, I was saved and I just got switched to like the daily news team. And being on that team, I will say, is the reason why I can whip out Black Latin history content the way I can. Because
the quick turns are no joke, girl.
Quick. And I wasn't a writer before that. Like, for me, I just always loved the creative aspect of journalism and, like, putting things together, but I was not a writer. Like, don't ask me to write a script. I had to write scripts, and I had to write a script every single day. You know what I'm saying? And I had to pitch, research, write, edit, come up with social copy.
It sounds like boot camp.
And an 8 to 10 hour shift every single day.
Same.
Yeah. So it was like, like the first couple of months, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Like, this is not what I signed up to do. But I'm so grateful. Like, I always say God knew what he was doing, because without that, I would not be where I'm at today. Like, I would not feel as confident talking about the topics I talk about. And so I was on the daily news for about 6 months. And then I was able to get switched over to the explainers team, which is like long form content, 8 to 10 minutes, where we're really basically, I always say we're explaining complicated topics in a very accessible way. Yeah. And I was on that team for a pretty long time. I loved working with them. And that was let's say like in my second year of being on that team, or maybe my first year, let's say 1 to 2 years, I had pitched a story about how Latin America tried to eliminate Black people and failed, right? But the premise or the angle of that was talking about how Latino is essentially not a race, right? And how the term in the racial category, well, not racial category, but the category, ethnicity category of Latino was created in the U.S. in the 70s, right? For the census. And so really talking about how we're both Latina, right? But if we ask somebody who's not really knowledgeable about La Nidad, and we're like, which one of these ladies are Colombian, they're going to point at you, right? And so trying to explain that in a video, but there was a lot of pushback because I was the only Afro-Latina in the company and the only one who could really talk about the topic the way I was trying to and include certain nuances. And there was just a lot of back and forth. And I kept being told that I was too close to the story instead of it being seen as like I was actually factually stating things.
Like an advantage.
Yeah. And so I was like, dude, I can't. I'm tired of people telling me how to approach these stories that I think are really important and that I know very well.
And you've lived
and
as
I've
well.
lived them, right? And so at that time I was like, okay, what can I do to like, find a way out of here? And so I was trying to find like creator grants to apply to start doing my own things. And Snapchat had a grant called the 523 grant. And I was like, okay, like let me pitch something. But at that time I had realized I hadn't created anything Afro-Latin Ivette since Tus Parceros in 2016.
Yeah, like something for you.
Yeah, and that was in 2022. So it had been years since I had new material where I could actually show like my expertise as a producer, how to edit, like, you know, like something of really good production quality. And I was like, dang, like I can't like, I know if I apply to this, I'm not putting my best foot forward because I have no proof of concept. And so while I was like, okay, I have like 4 weeks to create something. And so that was kind of like the first iteration of Black Latin history. I created 4 videos to just be able to submit something for that. And then Hispanic Heritage Month was coming up. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll put these on my Instagram. I didn't have TikTok at the time, but my friends and my boyfriend kept being like, Eileen, you need to go on TikTok. You love video. Like, this is going to be your thing. And I was like, nah, like, I don't want to do it. Like, to me, TikTok was just dancing at the time. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, there's a lane. And so I was like, okay, I have these 4 videos. Maybe I'll just put one out a week. Expecting nothing, like having no expectations. It was just more of like, I did these, I'm really proud of these, and let me just put them out in the world. And so I was like, okay, I need an easy name so I don't overthink the name and then I don't put anything out. So I was like, Black Latin history sounds like it's kind of straight to the point, right? Like, you know what we're talking about. And I created that page with 0 followers. And then the first video I put out was about the Black president that Colombia, like, tried to erase from history. And that, like, you know, did really well on TikTok. And I said, oh, this is the algorithm everyone's talking about. That's just so great. And then I just kept putting out my videos, 1 a week. It was 4 for the entire, you know, Heritage Month. And each video was getting like 10, 20, 50K. I went from 0 to like, let's say 5K followers on TikTok. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. My Instagram, they weren't hitting the same on Instagram, but like I call them the OG 1800 because that was that's how many people I had there originally. My OG 1800, they're like, oh, this is so interesting. Like, keep uploading these. I love learning from you. You explain it so well. I was like, okay, like this is fun. I love history. I get to talk about like, you know, Black people in Latin America. I was like, okay, this is landing for people. Mm-hmm. And I will always say the last video that I put out, which I didn't want to because I hated the way I edited it, was about how Afro-Colombian women used to use braids as escape maps during the colonial period. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I put it on TikTok. Within like 4 hours, it was at 500,000 views. So, excuse me? What is this? And I was like, okay, that's cool. Within like, by the time I woke up the next day, it was at 1 million views, and my follower count had jumped from 5,000 to 30,000 followers. Wow. Yeah, and by the end of the week, it had reached 4 million views. I said, wow, that's crazy. A video I didn't even want to put out. On Instagram, it didn't pop off like that until 30 days later. 30 days later, it hit 1 million views. I went from 1,800 to 6K. And then by the end of the week, it also reached 4 million views on Instagram. And that I went from whatever number to 16,000 followers. Viola Davis reposted it. Yeah, like, it was just in sky. And like so many people took the video and posted it on their own. They were getting 1 million views, 2 million, 4 million. So the video itself was just like, people just like started this whole entire conversation that I didn't even realize would come from it, about like why braids are, it's not just braids, it's not just a hairstyle, right? Like so many Black women just related to it. Like, this is why we say the things we say about our hairstyles and why our hair is political and resistance as well. Mm-hmm. And I was like, duh. But I was so fascinated by the history. Like, I didn't tie it to today. And yeah, that video that was October 2022. And so that is kind of what like made me be like, okay, I think the time is now for me to like really revamp this, figure out what my formula for this is. I have my proof of concept now, right? Like, I have proof that people care about this.
What happened with the Snapchat grant?
I didn't get the Snapchat grant.
It's okay.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it, which is totally fine. I ended up getting this Howard alum grant. It was like Howard was founded in 1867, so it was $1,867, right? So all grant money is good money, I always say. And so I was like, okay, what can I do to like keep building on this, right? And so that was October 2022. By January 2023, I was like, I'm going to Puerto Rico to do something about bomba. And I was like, okay, if I can travel to these places, you know, immerse myself in the culture, learn about it, get my own original footage, because I was creating all of that off of stock footage, right? Mm-hmm. If I can get my own original footage, if I can, you know, like, how can I up the production value of this, show people that, like, this is still living history, right? And I was like, where's the quickest place that I can go to that I can afford to go to with this grant money that I got? And I was like, Puerto Rico, that's like a $200 flight from DC, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I actually have no idea what I'm doing though, but I'm gonna go. The bomba class I wanted to take by Shayla, she wasn't having a class that weekend, and I was like, oh my God, what is happening? Like, this is supposed to, like, I know it's on the beach. This is supposed to be like my shot, right? But I'm like, okay, I already bought the ticket. I still have to make it work. Ended up being Sunset Festival in San Juan.
I was there this year.
Yeah, like,
oh my
so
gosh,
you know
so
how
memorable.
amazing it is, right? It ended up being Sunset Festival. Shayla ended up having a class that weekend because a big private group booked her, and she was like, they said you can come, like, if you want to come, like, pull up. And I said, oh, thank you. So I go to her, I learn the class, I take a bunch of video, and then she was like, oh, it's so great that you're here during sunset because you can see bomba, like,
in the wild.
Mm-hmm. And how it really is embedded in our culture and all these other types of things. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And so I'm going to Old San Juan during, you know, the festival, and just like walking around and getting random footage of people doing bomba and everything like that. And that was my first, like, up high quality Black Latin history video of my, like, with my own original footage, shot all by me, edited by me, like, one woman team. But I was so proud of it, and I was like, okay, I'm onto something. And for me, I always say that me entering, like, the travel influencer space was essentially a creative way for me to get funding for Black Latin history and documentary grants, right? Because it's a little sadly, it's a little easier to get brand partnerships than it is to get grant money, right? Like, if I went to go to Colombia to cover Petronio and all these other festivals, how can I work with another travel brand that I can kind of do on the side of my main project? And so that's kind of how I've been able to fund Black Latin history so far, is by, like, thinking outside the box and being creative of the way I approach partnerships, just because the industry is crazy and grant money is, like, it's vicious to get, right? But there's marketing budgets.
Yes, there are. And I love que tienes la visión clara, you know, of, like, you're not losing sight of what you're setting out to do. Yeah. However, you're using the resources that are available to your advantage, and I love that because it's very intentional and it's purposeful. Yeah. With all this change, so from October 2022 to January 2023, where does AJ Plus fall into this? At what point did you make the decision, you know what, yes, it's a structured environment. I'm sure the steady paycheck was great. Yeah. However, you were ready to kind of do your own thing, even if it was a scary leap into the unknown.
You know what's really crazy? I still work there.
What?
I still work there full time. Yeah. We're just fully remote. Shout out to pandemic. Okay. We went fully remote during then, and we've just always been fully remote. Because we are an international organization and people are of different backgrounds and placed different places. I have amazing PTO. Like, I get 280 hours of PTO.
I don't even know how many days that is, but it
it's
sounds like a lot.
It's about a month's worth, like 35 days. We don't get any national holidays off, right? Okay. Because it's an international company. Yeah. But, like, if I want to take Labor Day off, they, like, included that into our PTO. Yeah. So technically, I still work there. I still have a 9 to 5. It's just I'm able to do my side thing because we're fully remote. I have a really good schedule. Am I tired a lot of the time? Yeah.
I hear you.
But I do think I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, it is time for me to, like, leave that, just because I need more time to do Black Latin history, right? But I also need more budget, because to this day, I'm still a one-woman team, right? And so I would love to be able to have an editor. I would love to hire a cinematographer, a director when I'm in the field, so I can just focus on producing and writing the script and hosting the episode, right? And so those are things that I am thinking about, and I'm in this space now. But yeah, I've been there for like 6 years now, which is so crazy.
Sombrero.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can 100% relate in a different sense of like, it's like you have 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly thinking of how to balance both without sacrificing quality, right? And like the heart that every story has.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's so immersive, like you said, you actually travel to these places. You're not talking about it from here in New York, desde la comodidad de tu casa. Like, you're actually going and embedding yourself into the culture.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I always use, like, the duality of it all is intense sometimes too. And a really good example of this was in 2023, August 2023. I was like, okay, I know I have proof of concept. I've done well. I was able to secure some brand partnerships. And so I had a 6-week solo adventure throughout Colombia and Brazil. Yeah.
Oh, I saw that you also did content for Carnaval.
Yeah. And so I was there, and like obviously I had 30 days of PTO, so I was able to use that to like just fully be there. But as soon as I came back from that trip, which was like end of September, October,
you were probably exhausted.
Yeah, I was exhausted, but October 6th happened. Everything in Gaza started happening. So I am jumping back into a newsroom where, you know, we are based in Doha, we are based in Qatar, like our audience is primarily Middle Eastern, Muslim, what's it called, audience, right? And I have Palestinian coworkers. And so like we are covering Palestine like for real, not how a lot of U.S.-based...
Yeah, more in depth.
Yeah. And so we are really covering the stories of Palestinians. And I'm like, because I'm a faster editor than I am writer, I was editing a lot of the videos. And I'm going through footage of literally dead bodies and having to blur them out and things like that. It was mentally so exhausting. Yeah. But at the same time, I had deadlines from the 6-week solo trip that I had to turn in because I was working with brand partners. So at one job, I'm, you know, in this really sad state at work, and then clocking out and having to like edit videos of me gallivanting throughout Colombia and Brazil. It was just such a it was such a duality of it all, and it was just really like, dude, what am I doing? Like what like, this is so crazy that I have to like be in these 2 pockets. But I'm really grateful for the work I do, because I feel like if I hadn't had that content that I needed to edit for myself, I don't know where my mental state would have been, right?
It's almost like an escape of sorts, but also a reflection of what our world was going through at the time and still is, you know? Like, these things coexist, you know? While the other side of the world is experiencing one reality, we are experiencing another, and that doesn't take away from the importance of either, but that's just the reality that we live in. So you've loosely mentioned how Black Latin history originated, but tell me how the concept has evolved. And, you know, obviously it's been a couple of years. It started as kind of like, I have to apply for a grant that didn't end up coming through, but it turned into something bigger. So tell me about the evolution. Tell me about, you know, what you're hoping to achieve through it, all the things.
So it's constantly evolving, right? Like, it originally started just as a social series, just as a way to like show hidden histories, really. And now it's kind of evolved into, yes, the hidden histories, but more of like a travel cultural history show. It's still mainly a social series, but my hope is to like make it a web series, a real thing, and eventually do like a documentary format of it. I would love like for a Nat Geo, I would love to be able to like, you know, like I would love to do like Black Latin history for Nat Geo and go to every country in Latin America and show our Black communities, Black history in there. And so fingers crossed that, you know, happens one day, Travel Channel, Discovery Channel, anybody. I think
Netflix.
Netflix.
Let's aim big.
I think it would be a really dope thing, because the last time something like that has happened was Black in Latin America by Henry Louis Gates Jr., and that was early 2000s.
And we usually see this content for a month.
Yeah.
When
and that's
it needs to be told year round.
Year round, exactly. And so I also feel like oftentimes when people do the content highlighting Black communities in Latin America, it's never from someone who is Black from Latin America or from that culture. It's always like an outsider looking at it, and so there's certain nuances and conversations that aren't happening in those types of series and things. And so I think there's a route for me in Black Latin history. And so we're trying to expand into like a full-fledged web series this year. Fingers crossed that that's happening. And then also because at its core, it's about educating, and I've had teachers reach out to me, especially in the early years of it, like, hey, like, are these on YouTube? Like, I would love to include these in my lesson plan, X, Y, and Z. And so we're trying to formulate like a Black Latin history lesson plan that teachers can implement, during Hispanic Heritage Month and Black History Month, in English and in Spanish. And so that is something that I'm hoping to, for the educational aspect of it, really develop, because there's so many topics, and there's only so much I can cover in a 90-second video, and then also my baby that is taking a lot longer than I thought it would, but an Afro-Colombian travel guide, like ebook, and how people can support Afro-Colombian owned businesses, events, and things of that nature while traveling throughout Colombia, focusing on Cartagena, San Andres, Medellin, and Cali. And so
you are busy. I love it.
And so really, I'm a researcher by heart, so I had bought a few travel books, like ebooks and stuff, and I was just so frustrated by the information in them, because you could tell they weren't. You can kind of tell it was like a money grab in the sense. The layout design non-existent, the information and stuff I could have Googled. Like, I was just so frustrated, and I hate feeling like I wasted my money, and I hate even more feeling like I'm selling something to people and they're wasting their money, right?
Right, that they can get for free otherwise.
Because it's like, you didn't need to create this for that. And so I want something that's actually very thorough, very designed well, because my background's in journalism, and I wanted to be a magazine layout designer before print died, And so just kind of putting that old passion of why I decided to major in journalism into something physical for people to be able to plan their trips to Colombia, but actually support a lot of businesses that aren't in like the official tourism pages and stuff like that. So that's what I'm working on.
I am so excited for all of that.
Thank
and I think
you.
you're approaching it exactly how you should, which is from a place of experience, but also from a place of respect too, and acknowledging that there is still so much to uncover, and recognizing that as much as you would like to, it's not all going to come from you. However, estás poniendo tu granito de arena.
Yeah.
Speaking of, people traveling to all of these countries, how would you say tourists should approach, whether they're from the country, whether they're not, tourism in a way that authentically engages, that doesn't perpetuate stereotypes, that actually supports local businesses, local stories, and the history that you're trying to
That's
push
a great question. Honestly, I know we love like the Airbnb experiences and, like booking through those sites, because it's so easy, right? Everything's there. You just click, it's scheduled. But I promise you, sometimes the best experiences, especially in my experience, has been by like DMing someone on Instagram. Okay. Because I feel like a lot, especially for like in Colombia, a lot of the Afro-Colombian owned tour guides, businesses, operators, they're not on those platforms because those platforms take so much percentage out of out of their fee, and the tours already like coming from the US dollar, it's like $20, right? But $20 is a lot in Colombia. And so being very intentional on who you're booking, right? If you're going to Palenque, are you booking with a Palenque-owned tour guide? You know what I'm saying? Or family, or like, are they actually from Palenque? And there's a lot of Palenque tours when you're in Cartagena, and a lot of them are not Palenquero-owned, right? And so being very intentional in who you're booking your things with, but also, like, because I know most of my audience is a U.S. audience, I'm not sure if most of the people watching this is a U.S. audience as well, but also, like, taking out that, like, U.S. logic in the sense of, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's almost like a filter.
It's like a filter, but it's also like a... Damn, I'm drawing a blank right now. But, like, you know how people say, like, Americans, we just kind of, like, think we have everything?
I was having this conversation, actually, with a Colombian taxi driver, and he was like, listen, not to stereotype, but in my experience, generally speaking, you know, American based from the U.S. specifically, tourists, they just assume that everyone's going to speak English. They're going to adapt to them, even though they're the ones coming to our country. Yeah. You know, it's a sense of entitlement.
There we go. Like, letting go of that entitlement and thinking that you're own something, like, you are in someone else's country, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you need to adjust to their cultural norms, their cultural values, how things move there, right? Like, in Colombia, we know that Uber is technically legal, but it's still moving, so they're going to ask you to sit in the front seat if you Uber. That's normal. Like, it is weird the first time it happens, especially if you don't know what's happening, but, like, that's the culture. That's the norm. Like, you want this Uber or not, you know what I'm saying? And so just being very open-minded to things being different, but also understanding how there's a lot of cross-cultural connections as well, I think is how you can approach, like, ethical tourism.
I also want to be clear with what I just mentioned. It doesn't apply to every single tourist or solamente like, hay un poquito de todo from everywhere, but generally speaking, you know, that sense of kind of reminding ourselves that we're the ones choosing to go to a different country and accepting what comes with it, you know? Like, if you're making that first step, great. That's better than learning from a textbook or from a movie or whatever and experiencing it yourself, because also, as I'm sure you can agree, you're actually investing in that economy. Yes. But truly accepting everything that comes with that.
Yes, yes. Especially because, like, travel is such a privilege, right? And I know, like, in the travel industry, especially with, like, influencers and stuff, especially when they go to Latin America, they're like, oh, it's so cheap. And it's like, to you, because we are coming from the US dollar. But this is a lot of the things that we get to experience in these countries are extremely expensive to people from there. And so it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just a certain level of try to put yourself in their shoes and just be very grateful that you were even allowed to enter this country and experience this.
And cheap price-wise does not mean low in value or low in quality, you know, which I think is important to note as well. Yeah. You were mentioning earlier that, you know, one of the challenges that you face is trying to cover a ton of ground, right, in just 90 seconds. Yeah. You've had experience with long form, short form. You eventually want to do long form documentary as well. What ingredients make up a good story, regardless of the length? Like, how do you approach your storytelling process?
Oh, my gosh. That is a great question. Storytelling is a skill set that you have to, like, work, right? Mm-hmm. You have to work. And I honestly think the secret to good storytelling is your perspective, right? Like, I'm sure you're a different storyteller than I am, but we're both telling really great stories because we're speaking from our perspective, our understanding, and our truth. And so I think to make, like, a really bomb video, one, you need to find something that is going to hook your viewer, right? Like, why should they watch this? Why should they stop scrolling? There's so much content out there these days. Mm-hmm. So what about what you're creating is making that person stop? I think for me, I've been really lucky because I am my target audience, right? And so, like, if I wouldn't stop for it, why would I put it out there? So finding something that is just going to make people stop and be curious. I always say you wanna grab people's emotions, right? So what emotion are you trying to grab? Are you trying to do the curiosity? Are you trying to do anger? Are you trying to do nostalgia? Whatever that emotion is, you want to carry that throughout your video. Also, something that I learned in a creative nonfiction writing class my senior year in college, my professor, and it's stuck with me to this this day. She was like, the more personal your story, the more universal it is, which sounds like completely contradictory. Connection. Yeah. But she was like, the more specific you get about like recounting a story, the more people are going to be able to relate to it. Because like, have you ever been on watching a video and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one who did that when I was younger. And then you find out like we all took cold showers in Colombia. You know what I'm saying? Like, so finding like, you don't have to tell all your business, but finding that way to make it personal, because the more personal you are, you'll be surprised at how many people can relate to that, right?
And that goes to the idea of finding that relatability of now more than ever, right? We're interacting with people through a screen for the first time, right? And so it's like, how do I break that barrier where you feel like you can relate to me and we're not that different, even though we don't necessarily know each other?
Yeah. And so it's a skill set, and you definitely have to keep working at it to create that. But yeah, just I always tell people, stop trying to emulate what other people are doing on the internet. Stop being so much of a consumer, and like go live your life and have lived experiences, and that is going to make you like such a great storyteller.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't be the next, be the first you.
Yeah,
and
be the first you. Because like, I'm not the first person to make content about Afro-Latin, about history. I'm not the first person to do that. There's millions of people who do that.
And hopefully you won't be the last.
Yeah, and I won't be the last. I think there's so many people who do it so brilliantly as well that I love to consume. But we all have different approaches. We all have different tones of voices. We all have different like ways we tell these stories. And that's why so many people, like we may have the same 10 followers, but then there may be 300 that like don't know who I am, but love her, right? And so I think it's just really important, and just owning your voice and being very confident in your voice will always, always, always be worth it.
And I'm sure it also comes with a sense of acknowledgement that your voice can change.
It can.
Just like the idea of your project evolves, so will your storytelling based on the experiences lived up until that point, and also maybe a different sense of purpose, right? Yeah. As an extension of what you originally set out to do. When it comes to the process itself as well, when you reflect on the experiences you've had up until now, is there an anecdote or an experience that's particularly enlightening or surprised you in the moment as you were embedding yourself within these Black communities across Latin America and the Caribbean?
That's a great question. Oh, you're a great interviewer. If there was a particular moment or anecdote while I've been doing, I think, so I've never really set out to get the eyes that I've gotten on it. Yeah. Like I said, I am my target audience. So honestly, I was just creating stuff that I wanted to see, that I thought was interesting, whether people liked it or not. But I think it's been really dope that my mom and her generation of friends are so proud of the content I'm creating and the stories that I'm highlighting, because they grew up in a completely different, I always say like the brainwashing of Latin America, right? Of not being proud of being Black, because I feel like Afro-Colombians have always been at the forefront of that conversation in Latin America of like Black and proud, but being able to just be very outspoken about it, and understand that we are part of this like big diaspora. And so my mom doesn't have social media, but her friends do. And so now I have like my aunts following me on social media, and she was like, yeah, you're a celebrity to my friends, like they love everything that you're doing. And she was like, I've never seen any of these videos because I don't have social media. So but to me, it's just been really dope to see how the older generation is just really proud of the content, and excited about the content, and they're also learning about themselves and understanding themselves better through like learning the history of their lived realities. I think for me, that's been the dopest. It's just like, oh, I'm happy that y'all are like proud of this, and like, yeah, like this was our lived realities growing up in Colombia or Brazil or wherever, and like shout out, like they kind of feel like, okay, the younger generation is all right, like the kids are all right essentially.
You mentioned your passion for history and the fact that everything you do as a researcher, first and foremost, is grounded in what's happened up until now, right?
Yeah.
And the importance of recognizing as well. As you think of what's currently told, first of all, what's missing? Number one. Number two, you focus on the Black experience, but there are current tours, for example, that could embed certain aspects of that or do a much better job of telling the story. What is missing?
A lot is missing, if I'm being honest. There's so much that's missing. But I also, I think the main thing that's missing is that, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not acceptance, but for lack of a better word, acceptance in the sense that I think a lot of non-Black Latinos refuse to accept the fact that there is racism in the country, that, Black people in their countries have a different lived reality, have a different lived experience. And just because you have not experienced that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying?
Which seems like such a basic thought.
It's a basic thought, but the amount of hate comments I get along those lines, it's kind of crazy because it's like, well, these are people's lived experiences. And I also sometimes have to take myself out of it, right? Because I understand that I have a privilege growing up here in the U.S., right? So I don't know all the lived realities of people growing up in Colombia. And so I usually try to, here are some Afro-Colombians who live in Colombia who, talk about these topics as well. If you speak Spanish, great. If you don't, learn some,
Yo no lo digo, lo dicen ellos.
Yeah, I'm not pulling this stuff out of my butt. This is real. These are facts. And so I think just kind of accepting that just because you didn't live that doesn't mean that it's not true. And being open to learning more. And even with tours, I was in Cuba what year are we in, 2025? Bringing in 2024. And we were on a tour about Afro-Cuban culture, right? And our tour guide, she was Afro-Cuban. But it was just really interesting because I was one of 3 Black women in the group, and everyone else was older white Americans, right? And someone had asked her oh, how's racism here? What's going on? And she said, oh, that doesn't exist here. Exactly. When I say I tuned out afterwards because I was like, what? Excuse me? Did you really just say that?
That's also negating an entire life experience of so many people and what they face every day.
You know what I'm saying? And I was so conflicted by that, right? Because I was like, she's Afro-Cuban, so maybe her experience hasn't been like that, or maybe, because how politics and governments is set up here, she doesn't want to censorship, and she can't say anything during the tour. So I was really what's going on? But I was just that, to me, that just felt really irresponsible, right? Yeah. Because now they're going to leave Cuba and be like, oh, racism doesn't exist there. They have all these other issues. And it's well, a lot of it is rooted in racism. A lot of it is rooted in that is a very Black country. And so, yeah.
And I think that pinpoints an incredibly important duality of it's a shared responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Us as people who maybe haven't lived it, but you're curious enough to know and uncover the history, and then also those sharing those stories. Yeah. And it's not just tour guides, it's everyone you interact with in these countries, right? And so like you said, it's a baseline level of acknowledgement that comes with acceptance, that comes with recognition, that comes with all of these things after that.
Yeah.
I think the work that you're doing, I'm sure you know it, but I hope you give yourself credit as well. It's so important. What do you hope as you, I don't know, maybe think of a legacy, or, you already say that there is this huge gap.
Yeah.
Do you hope that maybe Black Latin history helps bridge that gap, even if it's just a little bit? O sea, tu granito de arena es esto, which is a huge one if you ask me.
Yeah, no, I always say I'm really honored to be one of the people yelling from the mountaintop that Blackness exists in Latin America. And so even if it's not a super huge impact, I'm really proud of the impact that we are making. I say we like I have a team. I'm making.
I was actually about to ask you that too.
I'm making making. But I do think sometimes, I think as an ambitious woman, you kind of always downplay your accomplishments, right? Because you're like, as soon as something's crossed off, you're already on to the next one. And I have a bad habit of doing that, of being like, okay, awesome, I did that. What's next? And so this year I've been trying to like sit in the accomplishment and just really celebrate it and be really proud of it and being like, hell yeah, I did do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did do that. Like that's unheard of. And so I'm honored, I'm grateful, I'm proud. There's still a lot that needs to be done. And I wish there's so much more that I want to do. But having conversations like this, talking to people, people telling me how they've interacted with my content will always be amazing to me, because it's a very siloed creation process, because it's just me a lot of the times, unless I'm in the country and I'm talking to people and interviewing. That's my favorite part, because I get to like interact and like hear like lived realities. But yeah, I'm honored that I do get to be, whether it's one small grain or a big pile, like whatever dent I'm making, I'm proud of it.
Mira, como Latina, como Colombiana, I'm proud of you.
Thank
And
you.
let's take a moment to acknowledge these accomplishments. What
Thank
is
you.
something that you are super proud of that you maybe haven't taken as much time to acknowledge?
My group trip.
Okay, tell me more.
So back in Juneteenth weekend, I hosted my inaugural Afro-Medellin group trip, and it was completely sold out. 15 Black women, 4 days, over $30,000 poured into Afro-Colombian owned businesses in Medellin.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and leading up to it, it hadn't sold out yet, right? I was like 3 spots away from selling out, and I was like, dang, like I wanted to be like, oh, I sold out, you know, like I'm so focused on the negative. And my friends and my boyfriend had to be like, Eileen, you just not sold out, you just sold 12 spots to a trip that has no reviews, like to something that you just like kind of created with minimal promotion. People are just like sending you this money and hoping for the best, right? They're like, that's not an easy feat. Like, you just sold 12 spots. Like, why are you so focused on these last 3? Yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, you know, my mom says, mi Diosito always works in crazy ways. Like, maybe a week or 2 before the trip was supposed to start, the last 3 spots sold out. Yeah, so it was like, it was just a really incredible experience. Also because like this group of 15 Black women, they were of Caribbean descent, they were of African American, they were also Afro-Latina. So I'm like seeing the diaspora in this group as well, and they're coming to Medellin, and they're getting to experience El Pacifico, El Choco, taste the food, dance chirimia, do a bunde. Like, it was just, I was so emotional by the end of that trip.
Sure.
Yeah, and like at our farewell dinner, so when the girls are giving speeches, and one of the girls who was on the trip, she was in Tus Parceros. Yeah. So,
What a full circle moment.
What a full circle moment. And like she was like, in her speech, she was talking about how being in Tus Parceros and meeting me in college, she's African American and Puerto Rican. And she was like, you know, she didn't understand what it meant to be Afro-Latina until she got to do that, and understanding that she could be Afro-Latina, and that was a word, and she could be proud of both her cultures, and she didn't have to be one or the other. And she was like, me at 18 helped her realize that, right? And I'm just like, what?
And
like,
you were just getting started then,
and I didn't know these things, and like I've known her for so long, like that's 10 years at this point, right? And so I was just like, what? Like, it was at that moment that I was like, dang, like, no, I've really been doing this. Like, my mission has always been the same. It's been very clear. And so that group trip just helps me really sit in the moment and be proud of it, and be like, even if it hadn't sold out, I was still really proud of being able to bring a group of women to Medellin to experience El Pacifico, right? Like, I would love to take people to El Choco or Cali for Petronio, Buenaventura, but we know Buenaventura is a little crazy right now. So it's like, to be able to share part of my culture for real, not just through video, but in a real life experience, I was like, dang, like, oh my gosh, like I did that. And so, yeah, I've definitely been, I feel like after the trip, I immediately like went and disconnected from the world because I was like, oh, this was 6 months of like build up. I hosted people. I need to disconnect. Like I need to recharge. And then immediately once I got back home, I was like on the go and like editing stuff. And I didn't really sit in that moment and be like, I did that. Like, I did that. My local team, Origin and Culture, they are also partially Afro-Colombian owned. And so it was just, like, really dope to be like, we teamed up and created something really dope. And the first time I went to Medellin, I worked with them, which was, like, 2 years ago, right? And, like, from that one experience with them, 2 years later, I've been able to pour back into them as well, you know? And so it's just, it's been just really full circle moments. That whole trip was a full circle moment.
And it also goes to show the experience and the importance of when you're invited into a country, right?
Yeah.
When you're the one hosting, not only are you tasked with the planning, but you are also tasked with sometimes the first impression, the first interaction that all of these visitors have. And knowing the history of our country in particular, that's a huge responsibility, you know, because you're not contradicting, but you're working against these stereotypes that people are already going in with that may change, you know, and have changed recently, right? And it's now more positive than it is negative, but we still kind of have that looming, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how people view,
en Medellin, ¿no?
Yeah, it's interesting how people view Colombia. So, like, the first time I went to Medellin, I didn't know Medellin's history, actually, right? I just knew people were traveling there. It looked pretty. But in that 6-week solo adventure, the least amount of days I had planned for was Medellin because I was like, oh, Medellin's like super white Colombian, mestizo. Like, I'm not going to find like black culture there. Like, I'm just going to go so I can, you know, say I've been and go to Cartagena. And I always say Origin and Culture team, they are the reason why I fell in love with Medellin because they showed me where all the Afro-Colombian events were, how dope the city was, how beautiful Medellin is so gorgeous. Beautiful. And so to be able to, like you said, shape how people view Medellin, every single woman on that trip is like, Eileen, so when are we going back? Like they're like, you don't have to plan it. Yeah, they're like, we can just like all be there around the same event and, you know, meet up at things. And I was like, I'm so happy to hear that y'all loved Colombia, y'all loved Medellin, that y'all want to come back, that you're already planning another trip. You felt like the trip was too short because you were having so much fun, right? And so, again, super honored that I'm also getting to help reshape the narrative of Colombia because Colombia does have such a, like, you know, negative and dark history and past and, you know, understandably so. But there's been so much work that the country is doing to, like, change that. And so, yeah, you know that papaya, you gotta be on your P's and Q's, but like, you know, like after you're on your I just feel like if you live in any major city, you can navigate Colombia.
I think as Colombians, right, we already have that auto filter of like, no me voy a poner oro, o sea, esto no me lo pondría.
Girl.
But es tan básico como no dar papaya, and you've just be aware, alert, and that's it. Just as I would here in New York.
Yeah.
O sea, para no ir muy lejos. I wrote my master thesis on the impact of public relations in addition to so many other aspects in changing Colombia's global perception.
Oh, wow.
And there were so many factors. It's like you just mentioned, the investment of the country in all of these campaigns, the Pro Colombia, Colombia es Pasión, the rise, for example, in the visibility of our Colombian soccer team, the rise in our artists, the fact that major airlines like JetBlue years ago had direct flights, you know, and so the convenience aspect. And so all of these things, and I'm sure you can relate as well, but personally speaking, what inspired that was the fact that from day zero, I've been so proud to be Colombian.
Yeah,
and at the very beginning, I would be hit with our old history, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but there is so much more.
There's so much more. It's so beautiful.
And now it warms my heart that people go about, you know, actually go out of their way to see it for themselves, and they end up falling in love. And listen, I'm biased probably, but I'm like, thank you. Like, it's beautiful that you now see what we as locals see, or maybe not locals because it's been a while since I've lived there, but as someone who was born there, que tiene una conexión también súper cercana, súper orgullosa, like, qué belleza que la gente se esté tomando el tiempo y esté invirtiendo en nuestra gente, en nuestra
Yes.
cultura. Y vea que, pucha, sí, somos café y somos esmeraldas, pero también somos gente muy cálida y muy echada
Yeah.
pa'lante, and there's so much history.
So much history. And it's also like, I think Colombia is what, the second most biodiverse country in South America, following
the,
like
the most diverse bird species. Did you know we're the second highest exporter of avocados in the world?
and flowers.
Orchids specifically,
yeah,
yes, and
exactly.
flowers.
Yeah, like there's so much beauty in Colombia as well. Like the history is
Yes.
gorgeous, but like the landscape is insane. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so I always say like right now I've been really focused on like highlighting Afro-Colombian communities and stuff, but I really want to go to Colombia and do like the nature circuit and go to Tatacoa and go to
Amazonas,
yes,
La Guajira.
do all of that, right? And so the trip I have in October, I should be going to see whales in Bahía Solano. Yeah, and so in El Pacifico, I've never gone whale watching before, and so I'm really excited to like be like, oh, my first whale watching experience was in El Pacifico. You know what I'm saying? And so like I think people forget, like, don't realize that Colombia is as gorgeous as it is, but it also has that sazón. It has like so much cultural, like it's called the land of 1,000 rhythms because music is like such a big thing too. And there's so many, like whatever your vibe is, there is some type of music there in Colombia. And so yeah, I feel you on that. Like so proud to be Colombian. I have always been extremely proud to be Colombian. I don't think I would want to be anything else, right? We also have the best accent.
Respectfully, you know, to every country in the world, but especially in Latin America and the Caribbean it's so unique. It always has something to offer.
Yes.
It's just a matter of people taking the time to respectfully visit and see it for themselves. Oh, wait, I love this vibe. I love this vibe. It feels so seen. Let's end with some rapid fires, okay? You seem like you hop on a plane all the time. You're probably a regular at the airport. So, what are the key ingredients to a memorable trip? Rattle them off.
Key ingredients. I'm big on cultural immersion and adventure travel, right? So I always want to find at least one bucket list activity. So like when I was in Rio, that was hanging my feet out of an open door helicopter, right? And seeing Christ the Redeemer. Like I'm some type of bucket list activity. And then some type of like dance class. I love music. I think music played a really big role in me understanding my Colombianness and my Blackness and just like really feeling as part of both cultures. And so some type of dance class, especially if it's like a folkloric dance class, right? So like Puerto Rico bomba, like I felt so connected and
I'm
like,
a huge dancer
too.
too.
And I feel like a lot of those folkloric dances are also rooted in like resistance and rebellion in Black communities. And so you're like I said, living history. So to me, as long as those two things are happening on a trip, it's a memorable trip.
Something in your suitcase you cannot travel without.
My fan.
Yes! Oh my God, I'm right there with
it's
you.
hot. It's hot. I'm always hot.
Yeah.
Give me a fan. Yeah.
I feel so seen. Yes, same.
Yeah. Like, I don't play. There's always a fan in every bag. Yeah. And an anti-chafing stick.
Yes. We love. Preference, carry-on or checked bag?
Check bag. I'm an overpacker. I hate a carry-on. I'm also like, I'm a curvy girl, and so my clothes have a lot of fabric. You know what I'm saying? So trying to fit a lot into a carry-on, and then like I get hot really quickly. I sweat really quickly. I'm going to very hot climates. Like I need
shopping.
Yeah, I need options. I am not a carry-on only girl. I actually hate only
I have
flying
a bit of
carry-on.
an identity crisis when it comes to these.
Really?
Because I hate the waiting process of a checked bag. Like, I will avoid a checked bag like the plague, right? But I hate being constricted to carry-on sized items.
Yeah.
And, like, if shopping is involved, like, what do we do? So I'm still working that out.
I will always have a check bag. Yeah.
Favorite destination thus far?
Ooh, besides Colombia, obviously, it would definitely be Rio, Brazil. I think nothing beats that like Copacabana beach landscape. It's like a mountain, there's the beach, there's a jungle in the middle of the city. Like Rio's insane. Like just geography wise, it's beautiful, but also culturally, like there's just so much to do in Rio that I my favorite place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bucket list destination, someone you have not been yet.
That's a good question.
For storytelling or for pleasure, whatever. or both?
Ooh, that's a really good question because there's so many places I want to go to, right? I want to say Switzerland. Yeah, I've heard it's beautiful. Because I've been able to travel more, I'm learning myself as a traveler and what I actually really like and enjoy outside of like when I'm traveling for work. And I love a good mountain. I love a good landscape, right? And so a lot of my favorite trips have been trips where I'm getting to see landscapings and being like, holy, can I cuss?
Yes.
Holy shit, this exists. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I did a 7-day Southwest U.S. road trip with my boyfriend in 2021. That was like our first trip together.
You learn a lot about a person. You learn a lot about
people. We were in a camper van for 7 days.
Oh my goodness.
Going through Las Vegas, Southern Utah, and Arizona.
And you
right?
made it through, so check.
We made it through. We're 6 years in, girl. We're 6 years in.
I love it.
But like the entire time, we were like, holy shit, like, what is a hoodoo? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is absolutely gorgeous. And so I keep hearing Switzerland's landscapes are crazy, and I think that's where I really want to go next.
Something about landscapes as well and being one with nature truly reminds you of how small we are within the grand scheme of the world.
Yes,
you know?
Yes, I'm always like, how can you not believe God is real when you see these things? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, where did this come from? Like in the middle of anywhere. And so, yeah, I think Switzerland is it's up there for my bucket list
I got
trips.
you with recommendations, even though you're a researcher and you'll find them, but I got you. Are you an early to the airport or cutting it close type person?
I'm early to the airport.
Me too.
I do not like to feel like anxiety ridden. Like I want to be at the airport. No, I went through TSA.
Spot your gate.
Spot my gate. Maybe grab a snack. Even if I don't want to grab a snack, I want to be seated and calm. You know what I'm saying? Again, I get hot quick. So if I'm running through the airport, I'm already hot before I board my plane. Absolutely not. I missed the flight one time.
Oh, man.
And I was pissed, okay?
Yeah.
And so I've never, and it also traumatized me missing my flight. So I was like, nope, never again.
Never again.
And so I'm at the airport early.
Go-to travel snack. Or are you a meal?
No, my go-to travel snack is definitely Sour Patch Kids.
Yes.
I always go into Sour Patch Kids and hot Cheeto fries. I know it's a terrible mix, but like I'm going to whatever little Hudson News is there.
Lost twin or something because same.
Yeah.
You gotta have the mix.
Yeah, they hit for some reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aisle, window, or middle.
I'm a window girl. I'm a window if I'm gonna knock out on the plane. Like if I know I'm trying to sleep. Yeah, and it's so weird. I have to be on the right side.
Me too.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Because I usually sleep on the left side of my bed, leaning to the right.
Yeah. So I have to be on the right side of the plane. If I'm on the left side, I can't fall asleep. But if it's a short flight and I know I'm gonna be up for most of it, aisle. Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
We are twins. Yeah.
We really are.
Yeah.
Are you a sleeper, reader, chatter, or movie watcher on planes?
I'm all of them besides a chatter.
Don't talk to me. The headphones are in. Don't even look at me.
Yeah, don't talk to me. But I'll go through like watching movies, reading, and sleeping. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually have an anecdote about the reading. An airport bookstore hates to see me coming.
Girl.
I'm the one who walks out with like 5 or 6 books each trip, but like I don't dive into them immediately after. So my best friend, she's like, what happened to the ones we got in Puerto Rico months ago? And I'm like, they're still waiting.
No, I'll buy one book. But I also, in the recent years, I've kind of made a rule for myself to only read Black authors.
Beautiful.
And so it's kind of hard to find Black authors in airport bookstores. And so the one time I broke that rule was unintentionally, and I was going through Amsterdam's airport, and I didn't have a book, and our flight back was like 8 hours. And I was like, I can't watch movies that long. I can't sleep that long. Like, I need a book just in case. And so I go into the bookstore. I see The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and
I finished that not too long ago.
Yeah, it's so good. It was so good. But like, you know, Taylor Jenkins Reid to me sounded like a Black woman, so I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll read it. Like, fine. And I said, oh, this is good. And then at the end, I'm like, who is Taylor Jenkins Reid? Like, what other books does she have? I said, oh. You're not a Black woman. Great job. This was a great book. But yeah, so I usually travel with 2 books. Like, and I need physical books. I try to be a Kindle reader. It's just
too small. Maybe
it doesn't
an
work.
iPad, but the Kindle for me,
it's not working for me, right? Like I want a good physical hard copy.
You can see your progress, feel the progress.
Yeah. So yeah, I love a good book.
Okay, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Hotel, hostel, or Airbnb?
Hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I travel a lot by myself.
Yes. Safety.
And safety. So like hotels are just better. I think Airbnb has lost its like je ne sais quoi that made it worth booking Airbnbs. And so I actually haven't booked an Airbnb in years now. And then hostels only in Latin America, because hostels in Latin, especially in Colombia, are like boutique hotels. They are so nice. So always a private room because I need my space. But
also safety.
Yeah, also safety. I know there's staff in the front. A lot of them have security 24 hours. And so for me, it's like hotels. If I'm like trying to have a budget, hostels. And if I know for me, if I'm staying at a private room in a hostel, that means I'm staying at a really luxury place in a few days, so I'm balancing out my budget. Yeah.
Love it. Last one, and this is an important one.
Okay.
Travel outfit.
My travel outfit. Okay, so
Is there a go-to?
I do have a go-to travel outfit. Okay. It's all black. It is like these like harem pants, black pants that are cinched
Cozy,
at the bottom.
stretchy.
Yeah, a lot of space to move in. They're cinched at the bottom, so when I go, like if I have to use the bathroom, they don't fall.
We love.
Yeah,
Listen,
they don't.
I'm gonna have to add that to my list.
Yeah, a big oversized T-shirt, and then I have a cropped black Nike jacket with a hoodie, because I get hot fast. So yeah, I can't do if it doesn't have a zipper and I can't take it off, I'm going to be too hot.
Stuck.
Yeah, I'm stuck. So it has to be like a little jacket that I can take on and off. But it also works just in case I'm in a destination and it just, for some reason, decides to be cold, which happened when I was in Cuba. It was cold the entire time I was in Cuba. And I said, what is this? It's supposed to be hot. I didn't pack anything for cold. So that little jacket. And then I usually actually have this hat on, my hair in like two little twists, and then I can put this over my eye.
To compliment the head. People don't see the headphones. It's saying, don't talk to me.
Yeah, and I'm sleeping in this over my eyes, so it's dark. And then I usually wear like some New Balances because they're cozy and comfortable, and like I can wear them all day.
I love it. I always say I could never be famous because I don't know how celebrities travel in tight jeans and heels and full makeup.
You know that's how they be on those flights in Colombia too. They be like decked out.
Because I don't know who's picking them up at the airport is what I want to know.
I always say, it is so funny, I always say you can tell who's from the U.S. based off their airport outfit. When you
don't care?
Yeah, when you're from.
If you look disheveled, that's where you're from.
Because everyone else is like super nice, da-da-da. And we're like, girl, I'm trying to be cozy and knocked out.
Sweat girly. Like that's where I don't love like some cohesiveness, but like comfort over everything.
Comfort over everything.
Well, Eileen, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. I had so much fun. I hope you did too.
This was a great conversation.
Is there anything that we did not talk about that you want to hint at? Anything coming up? We manifested things already? Anything at all?
So I will be in Brazil later this year. I'll be there in November. I'll be speaking at the Black Travel Summit. Yeah, I'm on a panel.
Okay.
So that's really exciting. This year I've been really, like one of my goals this year was really to step into like my expert era and my speaker era and really just kind of show my expertise on the topic, but also that like I have over 6 years of experience as a video producer. Like I know video production, but also like I'm in this Latin space, so like I know this topic really well, like the back of my hand, and so I'm really excited about that, to just like be there. My first time attending that was last year, and I actually won Best Travel Series for Black Latin History there. Yeah, so to be asked to come back to be a speaker, and like in Rio, it's the 5th year of the conference, and so it's like their goal is to bring those of the diaspora together in Rio. And I think it's going to be a really dope time. So I'm really excited about that.
I'm excited for you. Well, thank you again for your time. I will continue to follow you. However else I can support, however we can collaborate. Count me in, girl. And thank you all for listening and watching. Until next time.